save me from this loneliness? Will you hold my fears release? Standing here in your presence, in a grace so relentless, I am won by perfect love, wrapped in the arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy. See, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe into, lean into your love. Oh, your love. When I'm lost, you pursue me. Lift my hand to see your glory, Lord of all. So beautiful. Here in you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face. My secret place, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. And all fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry. You know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry. To know you all my life. I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. And all fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love.
Well, hello, Watershed. Would you guys stand with us? And if you feel like it, clap, sing, whatever you feel led to. You are matchless in grace and mercy. There is no nowhere we can hide from your love. You are steadfast, never failing. You are faithful. All creation is in awe of who you are. You're the healer of the sick and the broken. You will comfort for every heart lost. Our King, our Savior forever. For eternity, we will sing of all you've done. Yeah, and for eternity, we will sing of all you've done. And we sing, God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. Your heart, it moves with compassion. There is life, there is healing in your love. You're the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And for eternity, we will sing of all you've done. For eternity, and for eternity, we will sing of all you've done. And we say, God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. Oh, where there was death, you brought life, Lord. Where there was fear, you brought courage. When I was afraid, you were with me. And you lifted me up. You lifted me up. Where there was death, you brought life, Lord. Where there was fear, you brought courage. Yeah. When I was afraid, you were with me. And you lifted me up. You lifted me up. Where there was death, you brought life, Lord. Yeah. Where there was fear, you brought courage. Oh, when I was afraid, you were with me. And you lifted me up. You lifted me up. Yeah. You lifted me up. You lifted me up. Yeah. You lifted me up. You lifted me up. And we sing, God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. Yeah. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us.
Good morning, good morning. It's so good to see everybody here. It's so good to be together. I always like to remind us that, like, of all the places in the world we could have been, this collection of people right here, right now, we are together. And that is so special. That is so, so special. Sometimes there are people who didn't make it to today. I think about the context that we're coming into today. For some people are acknowledging Father's Day. For some people, that's a really painful day and a painful time and experience. We're in Pride Month, and I'm always reminded that Pride was a protest before it was a celebration. And it reminds us of this joy in spite of. And then to my culture, as a descendant of enslaved people, we have Juneteenth, formerly known as Jubilee Day. And for people who know of Christian scriptures, Jubilee was this year of kind of like reset. And I think that would be so cool if we could just reset some things. And I'm reminded that people lost their lives last night celebrating Jubilee, celebrating Juneteenth. And in our context, in our country, in our city, losing people to gun violence isn't a new thing. But again, we're here together. So the next song that we're going to sing is called Thank You. And I want to offer it as a practice of gratitude, because maybe from where you're coming in today, you don't have access to that gratitude, but something happens, one, when we're together, and two, when we can turn our minds to think about how we're held, how we need to be held for ourselves, how God holds us, how we hold each other. And so for those who are struggling, let us sing this over you. For those who came in with a little extra pep and have more to give, sing this over people with you. And let us remember hope and grace and love. It's Jubilee, even when it's hard. I can sing a billion songs, dance till my feet are numb, spin till I'm empty and poor. I can't thank you enough. I can shout till my voice gives way, leave till I have no strength. Lose my breath trying to explain. I can't thank you enough. And the time where it stalled, I can never tell it all. Words of you, this will have to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful.
You sang till I found my soul. You danced till my heart woke up, yeah. Now I move to the rhythm of love. I can't praise you enough. You wept till I found my way. You lost your breath, dying to say, I'll never go back to that grace. I can't praise you enough. And if time were to stop, I can never tell it all. Words of you, this will have to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you, yeah. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. I just wanna thank you, yeah. I just wanna thank you, yeah. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful.
Surrounded by your goodness, you have overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. I'm standing in your promise, surrounded by your goodness. Yes. You're just getting started. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. Oh, I'm standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just getting started. Hallelujah. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You have overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. I'm standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just getting started. Hallelujah. And if time were to stop, I could never tell it all. Words of you, this will have to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. Come on, Watershed, sing that one more time. And I just wanna thank you. Yeah. I just wanna thank you for everything. And I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. One last time, just your voices. Come on. And I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you for your goodness. I just wanna thank you for your mercy. I'm so thankful.
Y'all can have a seat. Welcome once again. My name is David. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and even though I can't really see you because of the lights, we are thrilled that you're joining us here this morning. And I'm here to interrupt for just a few minutes in order to get you all up to speed on things that are going on here at Watershed this week and in the coming weeks. But before I dive into any of that, I just wanted to remind you all that we are in the midst of a campaign that we are calling Nevertheless. A few weeks ago, we got through sort of a 4-week journey sort of unpacking who we are as a community, as a spiritual community, some of the needs and challenges that we are still facing coming out of multiple years within a pandemic. Some of those are volunteer related, some of those are financially related, and all of that information can be found on our app, on our website, or if you, by way of the fancy QR code on the back of your chair or on the screen. Suffice to say, y'all have stepped up incredibly in the last couple of weeks. We set a financial goal that we are, at least last I checked, a little bit over a third of the way to getting in a very short amount of time. And so first off, thank you. And second, we would just invite you to continue to going on this journey with us, exploring what it might look like for you to lean in, whether that's in a volunteer or in a financial capacity, especially when it comes to reoccurring giving, because that is what allows us to plan, to dream, to be bold and ambitious in our own generosity. We just want to thank you for the ways that you have sort of leaned in with us over the last couple weeks. Now to the fun stuff. Actually, this first one isn't fun. We have been talking about an event coming at the end of this month called Adult VBS. And unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of our control, that literally I couldn't control them, I'm sorry. We are having to indefinitely postpone this. I know it says canceled because indefinitely postponed didn't really fit in the little text box there. But the reason I'm saying indefinitely postponed is because we are going to do this event eventually. The organizers are kind of booked up through the rest of the year, so we're probably looking at a 2024 date. But no promises here, but we might look to bring in that gentleman on the screen, Pete Enns, maybe individually before the year's up, talking to him a little bit. We'll see. Again, no promises. It'll happen eventually, but just wanted to draw your attention to that. Now, that was my only bad news this evening. Where am I? We've had so many evening events lately that I've you get it. All right, moving right along. So we have a number of partnerships here at Watershed, relationships with organizations doing incredible things, both locally and abroad. If you're ever curious about those partnerships, there's a section on our website that sort of just unpacks just anything justice related. So we have, of course, our Liberation Partners that are on the board out front, but we also have Trusted Allies. These are organizations that we may or may not always have an active campaign or project with them, but we've worked with them in the past. We believe that they're doing incredible work. And one of those Trusted Allies is an organization called Block Love. And recently, we actually had a need. We had a need, and we reached out on social media, and in sort of a fascinating turn of events, they filled our need. And that was really meaningful. And it gave us the opportunity to reconnect with them. We hadn't really gotten to talk to them a little bit. Samantha, our communications director, was able to spend some time with them. And in doing so, in meeting our need, we were able to get an update on some of their needs. And one of those needs is water bottles. And so, pretty simple. We are just collecting water bottles that we will then bring over to our friends at Block Love so that they can continue to care for the unhoused community here in Charlotte. So pretty much as many as we can get, we'll take. And you can bring those on a Sunday morning. You can bring those during the week, in the evening, when we have events in the evening, like I was alluding to. And we would love to just repay the generosity that they showed us by leaning into their work as well. And just also an opportunity to remind you all that we have lots of partnerships like this. One of our favorite ones, Bethany Christian Fellowship, Christian Services, they are working to house migrant children who are separated from their families at the border, while their families and guardians can kind of go through the necessary processes so that they can then be reunited with their children. And the main way that we show up with Bethany is by getting luggage, providing luggage to these kids. Often they have very few possessions. They all fit within one bag of luggage. And this is just a really simple, really meaningful way that we can support the work that Bethany does. Some other exciting things related to this partnership. I don't actually know who it is, but I was reminded or informed this morning that another family here at Watershed has gone through the process of being certified to be a host home for these children. So yeah. That QR code on the screen will take you to where you can order the luggage, but if anyone ever has any more curiosity, wants to plug into this partnership more directly, you can always talk to me. You can talk to Courtney Craven, who's in here somewhere, and we'd be happy to plug you in kind of more directly with this amazing partnership as well. So, pivoting a little bit, a couple things going on for our students and children in the coming weeks. This week, there is a student mingle event for our youth, middle and high schoolers. It is on Wednesday evening. You don't need to sign up. You just show up at Watershed. You can see all the info there. Wednesday, 6:45 to 8:15. So just, kind of playing 3D chess here. If you are hanging out with me and some of our kindred folk in Liberation, for our final week of the Liberation experience on Wednesday, and maybe you have grown a human to teenage level, you can bring that person and they can mingle. It'll be a good time. So be aware of that. And then for some of our little, like kind of smaller humans, we have a summer camp. Yeah. A summer camp, Camp Greenhouse, coming August 2023. I actually know the dates, but I'm not going to tell you because I want to incentivize you to follow the QR code. It is in August. When in August is a mystery. So you can follow the QR code and you can find out. You can sign your kids up. And as a parent of tiny humans, I know that things like this during summer, especially come August, when it's like, all right, when do they go back to school? When is this? Yeah. Think of this as sort of just kind of like a release valve for you. So scan that. You can also find the info on our app and website. But yeah, bring your kids. It is going to be an incredible time. And then kind of the final thing we want to draw your attention to this morning is next Sunday, right here at Watershed, immediately following our service, we will be having our Kindred Pride Month celebration. It's going to be a good time. There is going to be food. There is going to be beverages. There is going to be cornhole. Mark keeps mentioning cornhole, so I know he's excited about that. There is going to be a silent auction, which is going to raise money for our efforts for Charlotte Pride here in August. And we are working on ways for those of you who can't make it. This is not an excuse for anyone who can not to make it. We're working perhaps on ways of making some of those silent auction items available online. No promises. I think we got it figured out, but I'm not 100% sure. But please come hang out with us next Sunday. It is going to be awesome. And just don't forget about all the awesome Pride things going on this month. We have Charlotte Black Pride in July, and then, of course, Charlotte Pride in August. We're still taking auction items for that, so if you have something of value that you want to donate, be my guest. And as far as things to bring chairs or get comfortable standing, your call. But we'd love for you to bring chairs. So last but not least, Tommy already spoke some beautiful words, just naming the complication, the nuance, the complexity of this time of year, the events that are going on in our community, in our nation right now. I just want to sort of reiterate gratitude and appreciation for all of you leaning in, showing up, whether that's to the various Pride-related events that we've had this month, showing up here on a Sunday morning, continuing to encourage and, more importantly, to lead within this community, to lead us in creating a space that we hope is affirming, inclusive, accessible, safe for everyone, but maybe especially and first and foremost for those who are most vulnerable today and every day. So Thank you for being here. I will be back in a moment to introduce someone I'm really excited about, but before then, you're going to hear something really, really cool.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free from your lies. You're so self-satisfied. I don't need you. I've got to break free. God knows I've got to break free. I've fallen in love. I've fallen in love for the first time, but this time I know it's for real. I've fallen in love. God knows I've fallen in love. It's strange, but it's true. I can't get over the way you love me like you do, but I have to be sure when I walk out that door, baby, I've got to be free. Oh, how I want to be free. Oh, how I've got to be free. But life still goes on. I can't get used to living without you. I don't wanna live alone. God knows I need to make it on my own. So baby, can you see? I've got to break free. I've got to break free.
I would probably still jam you, probably dance with you if that would have gone on longer. Just so you know.
All right. Yeah. Ted. Next time. So.
I had to break the silence somehow.
I
I'm sorry.
So, well, if you would like to slow jam with Lewis, it's a perfect transition. So, that last song, that was great. And we get to do, and by we I mean not me, I don't have a musical bone in my body. You would have gotten to see that in just a moment had the song gone longer. But if you are someone sitting out there thinking, oh man, I wish I could be part of that, well, this last announcement of the morning, we have an opportunity for you. And my friend Lewis here is here to talk about it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for dealing with my awkward moments too. I appreciate it. We've been working hard on training me to take over the role here for music. And you saw Austin, handsome man that was over on that end. He has done an amazing job. And he has also done an amazing job at telling some of you, hold on, we promise you there's a change coming, but we need to take care of the change before we can take care of you and bringing you onto the stage and all of the stuff that comes with that. And so we're excited to announce that we are now officially ready to take care of any one of you that wants to be part of the Watershed Band. And I know there's a few of you out there, and if there's some of you that haven't yet signed up, maybe somebody that's watching online, somebody that doesn't know about it, we are super excited about this next season. And so we're doing something a little bit different, and we want to keep you informed about what happens. And so it's really simple. Instead of you coming and doing an audition, which feels awkward and judgmental and all of that stuff, right? Instead of doing that, we're all about relationships here, so much so that I can come up on stage and joke about dancing with you. And so we want to incorporate the funness and the great vibes that we get to have as a staff into everything that we do. And so there is a QR code on the screen, and if you haven't yet signed up for it, some people got a preview, got an early access to it. The rest of you can sign up today, and we have this thing called Discovery Weekends for musicians. Ultimately, what it would be is you show up, you come get to know what we do, you come at the same time that we arrive, and all of it is for the purpose for you to get a bird's eye view of what we do on a Sunday morning, so that you're not surprised, and then you show up, you audition, you put in all of that work, and you're like, you guys got to get here at what time? What? You got to practice? Like, what? That's a lot. I don't know if I can do that. And some of us have busy schedules. We got kids. You got kids. It's a lot of work. A lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
But one of them likes like chicken nuggets and rice, so you're fine.
So
it's awesome. I know that life is crazy, and so we want to make it as simple as possible for you. So if you are willing and able, you're a musician, you want to be part of the team, you're thinking about it, this is a great time to get involved. And we'll be doing this periodically, probably once a quarter, every single year, as long as you let me. Maybe? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, sounds great. So if you can, go ahead, pull out your phone, and go ahead and take a picture of this, save it for later, or you can go to our website and you can sign up there. That's all the announcements I got. You good?
I'm good.
You want to dance?
Not really.
Okay.
So, all right. Now, I guess this is kind of another announcement, kind of not another announcement, but we do have a special guest this morning. This person I've known for pretty much the entire time following the time that I got fired from a more conservative context, we'll say. And part of the reason and the way that I connected with this person is our stories sort of intersect similarly in that way. Colby Martin is an author of the books Unclobber and The Shift, which, by the way, after the service, you will be able to meet Colby and purchase one of those books if you like in the back, so I would encourage you to do that. But Colby is been in pastoral ministry for about 20 years. Like I already sort of alluded, spent a decent amount of that time in a more sort of traditional evangelical setting. For reasons that many of us can relate to, was sort of forced to leave that, and more in kind of the last decade has been a leader, a pioneer, a friend, a resource in this more, whatever you want to call it, deconstructed, progressive, inclusive, welcoming faith space. And so this has been a long time coming. We've been talking to Colby for quite some time over the last couple years about what does it look like to get you out here. And he happens to be touring right now, promoting his second book, The Shift, which he can tell you about. And we're just so honored and excited and appreciative that Colby is here with us this morning. So please welcome Colby.
Legend has it that a long time ago, there was a Jewish mother and a Jewish father who did not do their work. And when they had some babies, some twins, twin boys, they passed on their trauma to their kids. I know the Bible's so irrelevant, right? And as the kids grew up in this sort of dysfunctional home, we get these stories passed on to us where we find out that the dad favors the older child and the mom favors the younger child. There's a story of one afternoon as the kids are a little bit older and the older child is out hunting and he comes back from a hunt just famished, just wiped and exhausted and starving. And the younger brother had just made some stew. And the older brother, desperate to survive another moment, says, "Brother, give me some stew." And the younger brother sees this moment to do a little bit of twisting, a little bit of conniving, a little bit of manipulation, which we learn later, by the way, he got from his mom. He says to his brother, "Hey, I will give you some stew if you give me the birthright." In other words, let's move the whole family tree around so that I now become the oldest, and if you're willing to do that, you can have a bowl of soup. And the older brother says, "Okay." Which I submit to you is not a great deal. However, when you are raised by dysfunctional parents, you can't always make the best choices, right? Okay, a couple years later, there's another moment where the father is ready to give a blessing. And the blessing is reserved for the oldest son, which in the father's mind was still the oldest son, even though the younger brother did this family tree manipulation. But the moment comes where the father's ready to give the actual oldest son his blessing, and the mom, the aforementioned mom, who trained the young one in the ways of manipulation and conniving, says to her favorite son, "Hey, I have this idea. What if, stay with me now, what if, while your older brother is gone, what if we take some sheepskin and we put them on your arms so that you feel more hairy because your older brother is super hairy because the dad at this point in his life couldn't see very well. So let's make you feel hairy. Let's make you smell like your brother. Why don't you go in to your father and see if you can get the blessing from your dad?" And so the younger son agrees to this plan and goes in and is able to convince the father that he is indeed the oldest son. And so then he gets the blessing from his dad. The older brother finally returns home from whatever he was off doing and learns that yet again he's been swindled by his younger brother. Not only has he lost his birthright, but now he's lost his blessing. And in a murderous rage, he swears to his brother that once our father's gone, I'm going to kill you. Good morning, Charlotte. How are you? It's so good to be here with you. I just love this. I just love being with you. As David mentioned, David and I, we go back quite a few years, and I learned about Watershed years ago, and I'm like, good gravy, as I often say out I don't know if it's a West Coast saying or not, but I say it. Good gravy. There's more of you out there, because when I started doing this work 10 years ago, it was hard to find churches like this. And I heard about Watershed, and I'm like, that exists in the South? I must go. And it has taken me far too long to get here, but I'm finally here with you, and I love it. So I've been in North Carolina all week. I was in Raleigh last Sunday speaking at a church there, and I've stayed in Raleigh for a couple days, then Cary for a couple days, and then I've been in Charlotte for the last 4 days. And you really have a lovely part of the country here. I'm really proud of you. I love it here. And so as David mentioned, I've been going around the country this year talking about my second book, which the title is The Shift, subtitle, Surviving and Thriving After Moving from Conservative to Progressive Christianity. Now, here's the point of the book. It's the survival guide for when you are moving away from or sometimes been kicked out of. No? Okay. Yeah, there's a woo. Someone has with me. When you either move away from or being kicked out of your more conservative, traditional, look, the labels are not what's important here. You get the vibe of which I'm saying, right? The more conservative world, and you're on this journey towards something. You don't know exactly what yet, but you know you want to be connected to Christianity. Like the heritage of Christianity still means something to you, but you know if I'm going to stay in this tradition, it's got to be more open. It's got to be more expansive, inclusive. I use the term progressive. Sometimes that's helpful. Sometimes it's not. I don't care. Labels aren't what's important here, but it's this shift. And so I'm going around talking to people because for the last 10 years, this is the work that I've been doing, shepherding and guiding people through this experience. And what I've learned is that, yes, all of our stories are unique, and also there's a lot of similarities that happen in this journey. A lot of the same obstacles show up, theological obstacles. What do we do about God? What do we do about Jesus? What do we do about the Bible? I got a chapter on the church called I Can't Stand Church. Do you know one that I could try? You know what I mean? Like this push-pull, this love-hate relationship that we have. Like we won't ever go back, but also we can't wait to find a place where we can plug into. And so this book is sort of a survival guide for this journey. And I want to share with you this morning something that for me has been one of the most profound, not just insights, but honestly one of the most profound practices that I've incorporated in my own life and that I have encouraged others to as well when they are experiencing a kind of shift like this. And now you might be thinking, that sounds great, Colby, but I did that 10 years ago, or that sounds great, but I don't know that really describes me. That's fine. You can leave. No, I'm just kidding. Please stay. That's fine. I think what I have to say here will at least for you be a thing you can stick in your back pocket, and one day you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Now's the time I can try that out. And to do that, I want to return to the aforementioned legend, the tales, the stories of Jacob and Esau, the twins who were born to, as I'm calling them, the dysfunctional parents that passed on a kind of trauma that informed how their kids were raised and how they treated each other. And I want to pick the story up in Genesis chapter 32. So if you recall, the end of the story was the older brother Esau says to his younger brother Jacob, like, when our dad dies, I'm going to kill you. Jacob then leaves and is gone for about 20 years. And in Genesis 32, the story picks up, and Jacob is ready to return back home to be reunited with his brother Esau, whom he hasn't seen since the death threats from 2 decades ago. And so we read in Genesis chapter 32 that Jacob, who, if you had followed along some of the previous stories, you see that Jacob is sort of this conniving, manipulative deceiver. But I feel like that doesn't really do justice to the fact that, as I mentioned in the introduction there, that really I think his mom sort of passed on these patterns of behavior. But Jacob has sort of done these moves in his life. And so when you get to Genesis 32 and he's ready to go reunite with his brother, he finds out from scouts that his brother is coming out to meet him with like 400 men, which is not a sign of a welcome party. It's a sign of a fight. And so Jacob comes up with this plan. And his plan is this: I'm going to send ahead a contingent of because Jacob had amassed quite a bit of resources at that point. I'm going to send on a portion of my of my resources and my people and my cattle. I'm going to send some sheep and some goats and some cows and some chickens. Basically like the first ever edible arrangements, I think is what's happening here. Jacob's like, I'm going to send this on ahead to meet my brother. And then they're going to say, where's Jacob? And they're going to say, oh, he's right behind us, but not really. What's actually right behind that is another wave of gifts, of lavish gifts being sent on to Esau. And when Esau says, where's Jacob? They'll say, he's right behind, but not really, a third round of lavish gifts. And so Jacob has this idea, I'm going to pacify my brother. I'm going to try and lower his temperature so that when I do finally show up and meet Esau face to face for the first time in 20 years, maybe he won't kill me because he will have been so distracted by, impressed by, and grateful for all these gifts. And so this is Jacob's plan. On the night before he is set to meet his brother, the storyteller tells us that Jacob crosses the Jabbok River and brings the remainder of his party, the remainder of his family. He takes over his children. He takes over his 2 wives, hashtag biblical marriage, and he brings them over across the Jabbok River. And he leaves them on one side, and then he crosses back over to the other side alone, and he spends the night by himself. I find that interesting because I find that a lot of times when we face some of the most transformative moments in our lives, it is when we are alone with nothing but ourselves. And the storyteller says that Jacob falls asleep and he's awoken by this stranger in the night who just shows up out of nowhere and starts to wrestle Jacob. And the storyteller says they get into this all-night wrestling match where it's so equal that neither one can sort of get the advantage of the other until finally the late-night visitor, the storyteller says, does this cheap shot and kind of knocks out the hip socket of Jacob. And they continue to wrestle and fight, and the late-night visitor pleads to be let go, and Jacob says, not until you bless me. Which I find to be a strange response to somebody who shows up out of nowhere and fights you. Not until you bless me. What a strange presumption. You've come to bless? I don't know. Not until you bless me. And the stranger seems to ignore the question for the moment and says, what's your name? And Jacob responds by saying, I am Jacob. And the stranger says, not anymore. You were Jacob. But from this point forward, your name is Israel. And the artist formerly known as Jacob responds with, well, what is your name? Fascinating story, right? The stranger doesn't tell him what his name is. And eventually, the wrestling ends, and the sun comes up. And Jacob says, who is now Israel, says, I shall call this place Penuel, for I have seen the face of God, and I have been liberated. I have been rescued. I have been saved. The Hebrew is natsal. I have been released. I have been let go. I got 3 observations from the story that I want to share with you as a way to offer you a practice for those who are going through this transformation, this shift that again I have found to be one of the singular most important things that I've learned in this journey. And the first observation is this. My first observation is that you have issues. Don't take it personal. We all do. But no, really, you have issues. And you, and definitely you. You have issues. We all have issues. You have issues. But here's maybe the good news, is it's not really your fault. Most of our issues, most of the things that tend to make life hard for us, the ways in which we sabotage relationships, the ways in which we react instead of respond. The ways in which we bring harm to ourselves. You know what I'm talking? I think if you're honest with yourself, you know, like, yeah, I've got issues. We've all got issues, but I want to say they're not really your fault, but I do think they're your responsibility. They're not your fault. You have issues. What happened to you, how you were raised, the trauma that was passed on to you, all of that, not your fault. And now, in this moment, what you choose to do about that is up to you. It is your responsibility. And I'm going to say more about that in a minute, but I wanted to first just start out by saying, yeah, we've all got issues. Not our fault, but it is our responsibility. I'm going to come back to that. Observation number 2. If you look up like the meaning of Genesis 32, or maybe some of you have been in the church world for a while, maybe you've heard sermons on this or you've read books on it, you're probably familiar with the traditional understanding of this passage, which is great. I'm not here, by the way, to say that the traditional understanding of this passage is wrong. If you're into that sort of stuff, by the way, my first book is called Unclobber, Rethinking Our Misuse of the Bible and Homosexuality, in which I do say that the Bible has been misused, misunderstood, and mistranslated to justify discrimination against those who identify as LGBTQ. So I do love a good know you're wrong moment, okay? But this isn't one of them. So Genesis 32, by and large, has been understood to be a story in which Jacob wrestles God, or Jacob wrestles an angel of the Lord. And I think those are wonderful, beautiful takeaways, and I think those have brought great meaning and great depth and truth, and I love it. So I'm not here to say anything negative about that. That being said, a number of years ago, I was reading this story and going through some of my own faith shifts and journeys and transformations and evolutions. And a few things stood out to me in the story, details that maybe I hadn't noticed before, but more so when I looked at what happened after the story, and I kind of took the whole story in its context, and I used it as a mirror to kind of reflect of what was going on in my own life. And I read this story now as a telling of what it's like when old versions of ourselves show up unannounced and start to do battle with us in here. For me, this late night visitor wasn't some stranger out of nowhere. This late night visitor was a previous version of Jacob who showed up to do battle with the present Jacob. You'll see here in a minute when I get to the next chapter a bit more of what I mean. But I'm intrigued by how evenly matched this was. I'm intrigued by how we don't really ever get the name of the late night visitor. I'm intrigued by how even when Jacob does ask, "What's your name?" the stranger's response is, "Why do you ask my name?" It's almost this rhetorical, like, you know who I am. But more to the point, if you can at all relate to the shift that I'm talking about, the movement away from a kind of closed, myopic, sacrifice-based religion where you have to look this way, think this way, talk this way, everything's got to fit inside this box, and you're moving to something more open and expansive. I think you might understand what I'm talking about when I say that you have these moments where you're going along and you're dropping some old beliefs and you're picking up some new ones, and then suddenly, almost as if out of nowhere, there's this old version of you that comes online and says, "What are you doing? Like, we've worked really hard to get you here, thank you very much. Do you know how many Bible studies we've attended together? Do you know how many prayer trees we've been a part of? Do you know how much tithes and offerings we've given? Do you know, like, we've worked really hard to get you here. And now you're just going to, like, what, go to Watershed?" You know what I'm talking about, right? And there's that detail in the story where there's where the late night visitor, and I'm calling old Jacob, does this kind of cheap shot, right? Because I think the old versions of you, they know right where to get you, don't they? They know that soft, tender spot. They know where the guilt trigger is. Like, what are you doing? And this is how life goes. Like, our old selves work really hard. And a lot of times, I go back to the fact that you have issues, not your fault, is your responsibility. A lot of your issues, if not all of them, come from sort of unprocessed pain that's been passed on to you, generational trauma of some sorts. And what happens is, though the younger version of you developed all sorts of tools as a way to survive that. And it was beautiful and it was good because of course you did. Of course you did. Of course you are the way you are. Of course. Anybody who was you would be you. Of course. A friend of mine says people are the way they are for a damn good reason. Like, you earned your issues. But the things that might have been helpful tools for you in the past to keep you alive, there does come a point where those stop serving you. They do. Suddenly they become a hindrance to your growth. So I think what happens sometimes is we go along and we do audits of our beliefs, and we have these experiences, and we wake up to things, and we have new information, and we have new relationships, and we begin to grow, and then suddenly out of nowhere, an old version of us comes online, grabs us. What are you doing? Why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing this to your family? Ugh. You know that voice? And so the second observation is that I think in this story, or at least not in this story, in your story, there are these moments where these old versions of ourselves come online and resist and resent our efforts to grow. Now, I said I would come back to this moment where Jacob says, I'm not going to end this thing until you give me a blessing. Which at first, for the longest time, I couldn't understand both why that was Jacob's response and then why the response of the visitor, old Jacob, was to seemingly ignore it and instead respond with asking, what's your name? And then it occurred to me a while back, like, actually, I think maybe that is the blessing. I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. I think the blessing is this moment of, all right, what's your name? Well, I'm Jacob. I'm Jacob, which is a way of saying I'm deceiver, I'm conniver, I'm manipulator. This is what Jacob means. And the visitor says, not anymore. From here on out, you're Israel. And Israel's translated as God shall fight. Jacob had to fight his own battles. Because Jacob didn't get the care and nurture that he deserved as a child. He got a mom who hadn't processed her pain and so passed on all these, hey, what if we do this to trick your dad? So Jacob had to grow up and fight his own battles and figure out his own way. But now he's at this moment, this liminal, transformational moment, where now he gets to be Israel. God shall fight. I think that might actually be the blessing. I'm not going to let you go till you bless me. What's your name? No, it's not. Not anymore. You are Israel. And now check this out. Genesis 33. This is now the next day, the next morning. Keep in mind, Jacob's plan had been to send all these pacifying gifts to bring the temperature of his brother down so that he might not be destroyed when he's reunited with Esau. But Genesis 33 then, I'm going to read this for you. Genesis 33, verse 1. Jacob looked up and saw Esau approaching him with his 400 men. And so Jacob divided the children among Leah and Rachel and other servants, and he put the servants and the children first, and Leah and their children after them, and Rachel and Joseph last. And then verse 3, check this out. He himself, Jacob, a.k.a. Israel, he himself went to the very front of the line, bowed to the ground 7 times, and met his brother. Jacob hides at the back. He does all this work and manipulation and deception to get out of taking responsibility for himself. Do y'all do the Enneagram here? Yeah. Oh, what a fun response. Thank you. So I am a type 3. I know, shocking. And I relate to Jacob embarrassingly so, because I also can so fear taking responsibility for my actions that I will use flattery and manipulation and deception to try to make everybody think that I'm awesome. So I totally get Jacob's move here. What if instead of apologizing to Esau, what if I just, sent him all these gifts, and what if I did all these nice things? But it's not Jacob anymore, it's Israel. And so Israel goes to the very front of the line, approaches his brother and bows 7 times. Israel takes responsibility for his actions. Israel owns up. That's some real life change right there. That's some real life change. And that leads me to my last observation, which is this. As we grow, as we shift, as we transform, as we evolve, there will inevitably come these moments where we have to make a choice of what we're going to do with these past versions of ourselves. And this takes us back to that responsibility piece. Your issues, your quirks, they're not really your fault. The tools that you developed along the way to survive, to get you here, those. But you're here now. You're here now. And what you do at this point, only you can choose. You are responsible for your life, no one else. There's this really important detail that I've sort of skipped over and held for now in this interaction, this late night wrestling match between Jacob and this stranger, or old Jacob. And to make this final point, I want you to hear the very first words uttered in this exchange. Because the storyteller just tells us that they started fighting and there's a cheap shot, and then the first time anyone speaks, it's the stranger who shows up. And I want you to hear these words, but okay, here, I'm going to do this. I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer to come up and read this for me. And Ted, I'm going to turn this, if you can turn this mic on. I need one volunteer. Come on up. Yeah, just come on up. Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Kim Honeycutt.
Hi, Kim, nice to meet you. Is the mic on?
You've emailed before. Don't act like you don't
Oh,
know me.
no, no, that look was for the mic. I have to turn it on. Sorry, Ted, that's on me. Kim, there you go. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
All right.
Hey.
Okay, so your job is to read the sentence I'm going to show you on my phone as robotically as possible. Okay? No personality.
Oh, my God.
Just,
Who else can do this? Who else?
okay, just pretend you are our 2008 level AI, like reading this verse here. Genesis chapter 32, verse 26, as robotically as possible.
Let me go because the dawn is breaking.
You did it. Thank you, Kim. All right, thank you. You did great. Let me go because the dawn is breaking. These are the first words uttered by the stranger. Now, I think that oftentimes, if we're reading this or we hear this being read, in the context of this battle, this struggle, this late night, we probably hear it in our minds like this: let me go, right? Like, there's this fight, there's this struggle, let me go. But we don't have to hear it like that. What if instead, this old version of ourself that comes online, this old version, this previous version of us, who is resistant to and resentful of and is wanting to stop us from growing, they fight with us for a while. But then what if there's a moment where the old you says to the current and hopefully new you, what if it's more like this? Let me go. let me go. I submit to you that, there's these moments where old versions of us come online and they resent our attempts to grow, but there will always come a moment where it is now up to you. What are you going to do about the fact that this old version of you is coming online to fight? Because ultimately, it's your responsibility what you're going to do. And I think the invitation here is to hear it like that. Hey, bud, let me go. Let me go. You're okay. Actually, you're better than okay. You used to be Jacob. Now you're Israel. You're different now. You can do this. You don't got to hold on to me anymore. You do not have to hold on to me anymore. You don't. I know it's hard. It's real scary to let go of past versions of ourselves, amen? Even when we resent that person that we've been, even when we can't stand them, sometimes especially when we can't stand them, we still hold on to them because that's what we know. All I know is how to be a victim. All I know is how to be the martyr. All I know is how to be the person who's messed up. What if you can be the person who's new and healed and whole? But you got to let go. You got to let go. You got to Marie Kondo those old versions of yourself. Thank you for how you've served me. For reals. Past Colby, thank you. I'm so proud of you. You overcame a lot. So proud of you. But bud, that's not where we are anymore. And I know it's hard for you, but I'm going to let you go. And I think the good news is the old versions of us, even though they put up that initial fight, eventually they're like, ooh, hey, let me go. Not until you bless me. Oh, I'll bless you. I'll bless you by telling you, like, you're new. That's your blessing. You're not me anymore. And that's good news. That's good news. But it's up to you to let go. It's up to you to let go. Yeah, the old you started it, but it's the new you that's got to finish it. Let me go. And when we do, and this is how that little interaction at the end of Genesis 32 ends, when we do let go, we are forever changed. You know this, right? Like the transformations that we go through in life, they will stay with you forever. And that's okay. And that's good. There's the story ends in Genesis 32 with, and you might remember this, Jacob then walks with a limp because of the aforementioned cheap shot. Forever walks with a limp. As evidence that he's not who he was anymore. And that's okay. It's good. To walk with a limp is not to be ashamed of. To carry the scars of who we used to be is, that's normal. It's healthy. I'm going to ask the band to come back out for a closing song, and as they do, I just want to leave you with this thought that, oftentimes people suggest that Jacob is wrestling God in this story, and one of the things I don't love about that is that implies that it is God then that strikes Jacob and causes this suffering, causes this limp in Jacob. And I don't think God is out here knocking people around, causing suffering. That's just not who I understand God to be. For me, God is the one who is present with and then rescues us from those moments when we get stuck in our fear and our shame as we wrestle our old selves, wondering if we really can keep going and growing and transforming. God is the one who is with us in that struggle. God is the one who is with us in that transformation and that battle. God doesn't inflict the suffering and the pain on us. Life does that because life is hard. It just is. It's not hard because you're doing it wrong. It's just hard. And I think God, maybe this morning we can hear the voice of God being the voice that says, yeah, I see you this morning. I see the way you limp. I see the way you carry the scars of who you used to be. I see the way that you've grown and transformed and changed, and I'm so freaking proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And to the extent that you're able, maybe this morning you would do just a little bit more letting go of any past versions of you that you might still be holding on to. Any past identities. I can't let go of that. Well, maybe you can. Maybe that's okay. Maybe the old you is actually hoping you will finally let go. And I think God sees you and says, I'm just so proud of you. You're doing it. You're staying open to growth. You're staying open to change. Might be all God ever asks of us. So may you, Watershed, as you go from here, may you trust that when it gets hard to shift through these various stages, and by the way, maybe you've done one recently or in the middle of one now, you will do this again. You have not arrived. I'm sorry. You haven't. So these moments will come up again. And may you trust in these moments when the old you is afraid to change once again. And when they know just the words to say to make you question and to doubt, may you trust that you actually get to choose what you do. That when you're ready, you can let go of these past versions of you. You can thank them for how they got you here, and you can trust, which, by the way, I submit to you in the New Testament, whenever you see the English word faith, the Greek word behind that is pistis. Pistis is probably better translated as trust. Faith is not believing certain ideas in our heads. Faith is walking with an open posture of trust. May you trust in these moments that these old yous actually want you to grow. They do, and they want to bless you along the way. And when that happens, when you wrestle, when you fight, when you grow weary in the middle of the night, and you can finally see the wisdom in just letting go and trusting that you're going to be okay, may you know that in that struggle, you saw the face of God and you found your liberation. Amen.
Would you stand as we close by singing together this morning, reflecting on these words? Sing this with me. You made me new. You are making me new. You made me new. You are making me new. Sing that out. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You make me new. You are making always easy to believe that there's a new thing being born inside of us. It's not always easy, but it's possible, it's available. We've got a room of people who can sing it for you, who can sing it over you when you can't believe it. Thank you for being a part of that voice. Thank you for being a part of this experience, and know that you are needed. You are needed by people in this room. They need you to be a voice of hope when they have none. So thank you. If you'd like to speak with Colby, if you'd like to head to the back and meet him, he'd love to engage in a conversation, shake your hand, meet you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a great week. We will see you next Sunday.